Your web presence. Now, we just opened our eyes to the incredible opportunity online for reaching your audience. We touched briefly on a lot of exciting digital advertising methods and tools, but before we jump into those areas, we have to take a step back and make sure you're building a strong foundation. If we cover only social media promotion and search marketing without paying attention to your web presence, and yes, we're going to discuss the importance of a cohesive presence involving several websites, well, if we didn't do that, we would, in essence, be asking you to construct a skyscraper without a foundation. Foundation for a skyscraper should be around 5 stories deep below ground, or your skyscraper falls over. Now, let's start by looking at your primary company website. Then later on, we'll take you through how to quickly and easily create a cohesive presence across several websites, including a blog and social profiles, when we discuss social media. Your primary website is accountable to your business in much the same way a salesperson or employee is. Your website needs to fulfill these 6 primary relationships. It should educate your audience in a way that's easily digestible, allowing them to make an immediate buying decision. Immediate is important there. Or to interact with your company. It should allow them to reinforce your company brand and image, including your company mission, communications, visual impression, and overall character. It should establish your company and its officers, or a chosen representative, as thought leaders and authorities in your industry. It should generate leads and sales. This seems obvious, but I bet the majority of folks find their website kind of lacking in that area. Your website should build lasting relationships with your audience. That's an important and often overlooked role, and that leads us to your website's final duty, empowering your audience to buy more frequently, consistently, and at a higher dollar value. When push comes to shove and we look at the stark reality of growing a business, these are the only ways to grow a business. Now, what your website will not do, it will not miraculously receive traffic. Now, let's face it, some part of us always feels like that old saying, if we build it, they will come. Well, we've talked with dozens of companies who were baffled as to why they weren't making sales or getting leads online. They say, I built a beautiful website, but a gorgeous website can sometimes hurt your website's effectiveness. It definitely does not guarantee miraculous traffic. Your website will not replace personal attention and connection. Now, we're going to show you how to use your website and online tools to create a more personal connection with your customers and audience. It's important to note that just because your website will be interacting with your market doesn't mean that you don't have to. We're a strong proponent of personal connection between a company and its audience. Nothing, no matter how effective, can replace the bond created with solid customer service. It always goes back to the basics. Also, your website will not take the place of effective marketing and messaging. I don't know why this is, but it seems that most companies put up their websites but don't bother to craft their web copy or site layout with the same attention paid to collateral and traditional ads. Now, your website can only achieve its responsibilities if you properly craft its elements and, most importantly, test them to find out what your audience responds best to, and specifically your audience, because each audience is different. Now, let's dive into your primary website elements now. We're going to train you on the 6 most effective elements to dramatically increase the leverage of your website: homepage layout, navigation, design, calls to action, which, by the way, should appear on every single page of your website, individual landing pages targeted to specific segments of your audience, and the marketing channel you're using to drive visitors to it, and, importantly, tracking your site's statistics. Now, traditionally, we think of our homepage as the central part of our website that shows visitors every single area they can visit and introduces them to who you are and what you do. But testing and statistics have shown that the intuitive approach to the homepage actually causes most visitors to leave instantly. Websites keep their visitors longer and receive more traffic to other pages of their website if they have the counterintuitive approach. Your homepage is not your be-all, end-all first impression. You aren't blasting a marketing message that has only 1 minute to make an impression. You're building a relationship that can span hours and hopefully days and years. So your homepage's sole purpose is to get your visitor to stay on your site and instantly click into your site within their first 5 seconds. Now, this is accomplished by focusing your homepage to one primary visitor action you want them to take. This would amount to the first step you've designed in your marketing funnel. To hedge against alienating visitors who perhaps aren't interested in your primary action, you want to provide up to 3 more secondary actions. Now, what about your site navigation and all the other pages of your site? Don't worry, we're not telling you to erase all the content from your homepage except your primary and secondary actions. You can still have a menu that leads to your main pages, and we also encourage having a sidebar with email capture, collateral downloads, and more. We're just saying that the primary real estate on your homepage, the central area where your welcome message appears, should be used for your primary and secondary actions and nothing else. Site navigation is much more than just the menu bar on your website. It's a progression through your site that should match your visitor's natural psychological processes that addresses his core objections, fears, questions, and benefits that they have or desire. Now again, what is counterintuitive will often be more effective than you might think. In this case, we assume that site navigation should be the responsibility of our website designer. Well, that can be possible if your web designer is also a professional online marketer or works with a marketer who can guide them. However, in most cases, you need to tackle your site's navigation and progression yourself. Here's an easy way to lay out your website and design its navigation for optimum effectiveness and increased sales or leads. Even if you already have a website, by the way, it's worth the time and effort to reorganize it according to the following steps. First, you want to see your site through your visitors' eyes. The first cardinal rule is that your website needs to speak to your visitors about them, their interests, and their needs. Your website is not about your company. It's about your visitor and how your company fixes their problems, serves their needs, and improves their life or business. So start out by getting clear on who your visitor is. You may have more than one core visitor type, such as customers, investors, and the press, or more than one core niche of your audience that you need to address. For example, if you sell information on reducing medical expenses and securing effective medical care, large responsive niches would be the elderly, cancer patients, and chiropractic patients with back and neck pain. We'll go into more detail when we cover landing pages about how to specifically target these separate visitor types, but first, you have to identify who they are. You can do this by looking at your website statistics, surveying your current customer base, and other market research, which we'll also cover in more depth a little bit later. Now, second, once you know who your core visitor is, the next step is to map out the natural psychological process of that visitor. This is the key that would result in a sale or a lead. Now, we've provided a worksheet to help you map this out. Don't worry about doing it now, though. You'll be able to take your workbook home and work through it. Just write down any ideas that come to you as we go along, and then we'll flesh it out for you later. Now, third, and finally, you want to make sure you've accounted for your visitors' objections, fears, questions, benefits, and desires as they move through the natural buying process. This means that, according to your experience, if a prospect often has a particular objection after you've covered certain information or features of your offering, then be sure to address that objection at the same time that you present that information on your website, either as a link to more information or right there on the page's content. Now, once you have established the proper progression that your visitors take through your site, the next step is to design that process so that your visitors follow it naturally, and therefore they're more likely to purchase because they've gone through the optimized buying process. The variety of ways you can accomplish this could fill up a week of these videos, so let's just hone in on the key things you need to consider when designing the overall layout and graphics of your website. Number one, make sure your main site menu navigation links to the core categories of your site, such as services, results, products, and things like that. Number two, make sure you have your primary action in the main navigation as well. Something like get started or free consultation, or you can push a special promotion like a free trial, for example. Anything like that should go in your main navigation. And third, and most importantly, write each page's content with the next step in mind. For instance, let's say that you sell credit repair services. The first question that's likely going to enter your prospect's mind is is this a reputable company to work with? So right on the home page and the landing pages, in your header or below your primary and secondary call to actions, you may want to include a few brief bullet points establishing your company's accreditations, reputation, and years in business, things like that. Now, let's say the primary action you want them to take is to sign up for an introductory package or a free trial. Then your secondary actions would likely be a link to all available packages and an explanation of how credit repair works. Once your visitor starts learning about how credit repair works, their next question may be, so why not do it myself? So you'll want to include that objection and your response to that objection on that page. Or bring it up and link to a page with your explanation, maybe part of your frequently asked questions area, for example. Your website's look and feel. Now, this is the only area of site design most companies concentrate on, and unfortunately, it's the one they usually get wrong. As we mentioned before, most businesses focus solely on having a pretty website. Now, the problem is, pretty doesn't sell. Effective writing sells. So the responsibility of your site's graphic design is to support your website's written content and not get in the way of it. Now, what this means is you want to determine how you want your visitors to feel while they're on your website. What experience do you want them to have? If you're an entertainment media company promoting a hip new movie or a phone, obviously you want your graphics and colors to pop and reinforce the experience of fun and youth and bright colors, designs, activity. Now, if you're a law firm, you want your colors and graphics to show a sense of conservative professionalism. Or, if you lean towards aggressive, dogged representation of your clients, you want your website design to communicate that with bold statements and colors and in-your-face writing without being obnoxious about it. Now, this leads to the one element of your website that matters most. You could get everything else we've talked about wrong. And if you just get this one thing right, you'll still be able to increase your website's effectiveness dramatically. You have to make sure that all content and graphics focus on your customer and his or her needs, not on your company and what you offer. Now, how is that possible? You still talk about your services and offerings, their features and benefits, but you do so by focusing on what the customer needs, wants, and worries about. Talk about the challenges they face and how you're the best option for addressing them. Not on all the cool widgets you have and the neat features only you really care about, without attaching them to benefits that customers care about the most. Now, another quick tip. Write to the individual, not to a vague plural audience. This will happen automatically if you create a single customer avatar that represents the average ideal customer that you have, and then talk to that avatar, not to the group. We provided an exercise in your workbook for describing your ideal customer, identifying key characteristics that apply globally to your client base, and building a customer avatar accordingly. Make sure you look through that section of the book. This is extremely important. Now, we want you to do that after we're done, though, because we still have a lot of stuff that we've got to get to. You have a checklist that will lead you through the workbook so you don't get lost or feel overwhelmed with what you need to do next. Just make sure you continue to refer to that.